my name is Bill, and I'd like to take the next few minutes to teach you how to play piano despite perhaps years of lessons. I've run across a lot of people who have learned how to play with conservatory music, classical music, but when it comes down to just playing for enjoyment, they find it difficult to get past certain obstacles that they may have in their mind about how to play by ear. So that's what I'm going to teach you about today. So I've got a bit of a lesson here, how to play the piano, and I'd like to go through some of the concepts of this. I'm assuming that you already know the names of the notes on the keyboard, the lines and spaces and so on, and we're not going to get into that. You don't have to know how to read in order for this to work, but you should know the names of the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. If you take a look at it from a starting point for playing by ear, you should know how to play the major scale. Many of you already will, but just in case, I'll cover it off with you. If you start at a note, and keep in mind that from one note to the next, let's say it's from a white note to a black note, these are called semitones. And if we take from a C to a D, because there's a C sharp in between, a C to a D is called a tone. C to a C sharp would be a semitone. Based on that, if you start at any note and you follow this pattern, from that starting point you go tone, you go up to the right, up from the starting point, tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. What you'll find is that you've made the major scale. I'll play the C major scale for you. Pretty simple, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. But it's a key to moving forward with playing by ear. We'll just try a couple of different scales. I've mentioned the C scale, the C sharp scale. You start at C sharp and follow the pattern tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Same with the key of D. Starting at D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. Follows the same pattern. You start at D, then tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. And so that's fairly straightforward. Now let's put numbers to the notes. Where in the key of C, C would be 1, D is 2, E is 3, F 4, G 5, A 6, B 7, and C 8. In the key of F, F would be 1, G 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can see the notes there, F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. In the key of G, it works the same way, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, if you follow that same pattern, and tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, starting at the first note. What I've got here are a couple of representations of chords, and this is the next step in our lesson. You take a few notes on the scale and you put them together and turn them into a chord. The major chord is the most common chord. Major chord is made up of the first note of the scale, the third note, and the fifth note of the scale. So in the key of C, it's 1, which is C, 3, which is E, and G is 5. So that's the major chord. Same thing works in the key of D, where D is the number 1, F is number 3 of the scale, sorry, F sharp, and A is 5. That works for any chord, any major chord. Take the first note of the scale, the third note of the scale, and the fifth note of the scale. You've got your major chord. Interestingly, when you play by ear and you play melodies and so on, what you'll find is that you're filling in the chord with your right hand and a bass note with your left hand. So inversions come in really important at this stage. So a C in its root position is C, E, G, which is the 1, 3, 5, but a C can be played instead of 1, 3, 5, can be played 3, 5, 1, where the 1 is the octave above the first C. So that's called the first inversion, which is 3, 5, 1, key of C, the C chord, it's E, G, C. Second inversion is moving everything over one section, and so it's G, C, E, which is 5, 1, 3. So we've got root position, first inversion, second inversion. This is important because if you're playing a song, I'll use the key of G, the old hymn Amazing Grace. If I was to play it with my right hand only, I could play the G chord in not the root position, but I can start with the first inversion. Second inversion, first inversion, root position. So I'll do that again. I'm just playing it real simple with right hand. Just to give you an idea of why we talk about inversions when you're playing, accompanying, improvising, whatever. A key concept here in playing by ear, a very important point, is this circle of fifths. The circle of fifths is made by, we start at the C at the top. You'll see the C at the very top, and as you go clockwise to the right, you'll find G, D, A, and so on. And what those are, just telling you how they're made, the C is at the top. If you count up 5 in the C scale, 2, 3, 4, 5, what note is that? It's a G. And that's why we've got G to the right. And if you start in the G scale and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that note is a D. So that's the fifth of the G scale. And keep going around, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's an A. So that's how the circle of fifths gets made. Going backwards or to the counterclockwise direction, C is the fifth of the F scale. We're going backwards, and F is the fifth of the B flat scale, and so on. So that's how it's made up. I circled the C, the G, and the F, and the reason I did that is because a lot of times in simple songs, the major chords that are used in a simple song are the 3 that are circled. It's a key that you're playing in, and then the chords on either side. So in the key of C, you play the C chord a lot, you play the F chord a lot, and the G chord. Just a little jiggle here. You can go C, F, G, C. That works in other keys too. I've circled also the A. So if I start an A, D, E, A. Take a few minutes and practice that. Starting in any key, play the chord and the chords around it to the left and to the right, or counterclockwise and clockwise. And you'll find that they relate very well together. I'll talk now about minor chords. A minor chord is a major chord, but the third brought down a semitone, so it's a flatted third. So in the key of C, using that as our starting point again, that's a C major, C, E, G. A C minor is C, E flat, G. That's a C minor. So if you can remember that, the flatted third, you've got all your minor chords. That works for every key, every chord. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you that minor chords relate to the major chords quite a lot. So I've circled at the top there G, where we've got G with a C and a D on either side. So in the key of G, we use the G chord, of course, the C chord and the D chord, and sometimes we'll use A minor and E minor. So I'll play a G, E minor, A minor, and then D, and then G again. Try that again. That sounds better. G. So I went G, E minor, A minor, D, and G. They relate well together. I've also put an arrow there because if you're playing in G and you hit the E minor, I followed the pattern that pulls you back from the E minor to A minor to D, back to G. It just sounds harmonious, nice, whatever. So here's another representation of the major keys, chords, have you, and in the inner side of the circle are the relative minors. So some of you will know that A minor is the relative minor of C, for example, and you can look at that chart in more detail to see which are the relative minors. You could also take a look at it and say, okay, instead of what I had in the previous page, I can have the minors, the relative minors on the inside of the circle, and then just circle the chords that are quite common in any given key. If you play by ear and you're playing in the key of C, you'll use the chords that are circled up at the top quite a lot. And that's actually kind of a key, a clue. If you're playing by ear, you're wondering what chord to use. If you use this tool, you'll be hitting the mark quite a lot of the time, and it'll make your job a lot easier and make it much more fun, actually. You won't be able to see this really in detail perhaps unless you blow it up a bigger size, but what I've got listed here, and I'll make it available on my website as well, is a list of all of the chords that you're going to need for a very, very long time. So it's major chords, minor chords. I'll just tell you a few of them. The suspended chord, suspended fourth, is the first, the fourth, and the fifth note of the scale. So in the key of C, it's C, F, G. That's a suspended chord. Seventh chord, 1, 3, 5, and then a flatted seventh. Or, this is a C seventh. Or C major seventh is 1, 3, 5, 7. And so on. There's a whole list of them here, and you can access them, as I mentioned, on my website. So that's very, very helpful. If you come across a lead sheet then, where you've got chords on the page, you're wondering what do I do with these things, looking at that chart, you'll just be able to play them. Don't forget inversions. You can play them in any inversion that you want, any pattern that you want. If you hit those notes in any order, it'll work out great. So I'll just play this chord progression. It's a C major seventh for 4 beats, and then a D chord, 4, and then B suspended for 2, and B, 7th with a D sharp bass, E minor, A minor 7th, D suspended, D, G. It's kind of like a nice little chord progression. Interestingly, I'm going to use the same chord progression but in a different key. At the bottom of the screen it's in the key of G instead of C, so it's G major 7th, A, F sharp suspended, F sharp with an A sharp bass, B minor, E minor 7th, A suspended, followed by A, and back to D, which is the key. I said G, I think, but it's in the key of D because the key that it ends in is normally the key that you're playing in. So that's a clue as well, kind of a helpful hint. I make a point here about keeping the rhythm. If you're playing by ear, it is more important to hit a note at the right time than to hit the right note. In other words, it's better to hit the wrong note at the right time than to hit the right note at the wrong time. And the reason I say that is because rhythm is 51% of music. You have to have rhythm and steady rhythm. Use a metronome, whatever you have available to you to keep the time. It really makes it much better. First of all, if anybody is listening and humming along, if you make the odd mistake but keep the timing, they can keep humming along. But if you stop and start and change the beat and all that, it's just really annoying for somebody who's listening. Plus, once you begin to play by ear, you'll be able to play in a band. And if you're playing in a band, you're going to go along with the rhythm. You're forced to go along with the rhythm. You can't stop and figure out something along the way and catch up later. No, you got to keep on going. So really, really, really stick with the rhythm. Keep it going. Some people have told me that that is the number one benefit that they've received from going through this material is just keeping the rhythm. Another point along with that is many of you who've been trained classically or with conservatory music will have been taught make sure you play the right notes. Everything's all about the right notes. And I say, no, make mistakes. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about making mistakes. Make lots of mistakes, but keep the rhythm, find the chords, figure it out, fill in the melody as you go, and really don't worry about the odd mistake here and there. Keep the rhythm going, and it'll sound great. You'll have a lot of fun. You'll learn a lot, and feel free to give me a call or an email or check out my website at BillDeVries.com. Thank you very much. Enjoy playing.